them beautifully and from a different point of view. I decided to try them because Montgomery, after all, was the most popular guitar player in the world at the time, and he was certainly a person worth our hearing and listening to, and everything he did was so important. We checked him out from top to bottom. And every guitar player that was of any worth at all recognized his greatness. But while I was copying his music, which I tried to do many times, of course, it's hard to copy Montgomery except for the octaves, because he was so far ahead harmonically than most guitar players alive at that time. Not all, but most guitar players. Till we were at a loss to where he was coming from harmonically. But I decided to use the octaves in a quite different way. I fell in love with this, which is the octave with another note in between them that gives it a little more weight, a little more, I wouldn't use the word color. It gives it a different energy. But then again, you still have to worry about, you notice I'm changing. Here I'm using the first finger, second finger, and then the baby finger, right? And I switched from this concept, which was using, or this configuration, was using the first finger, the third finger, and then the baby finger, in order to be correct harmonically with the chord I'm on, because I'm using a B flat, so I'm playing. Now, say for instance I didn't do that. Here's what it would sound like. Or this, you see, you get disharmony. So you have to be careful that your fingering is correct. Right? I had heard the great Fats Waller, and then later on the organ, the incredible Jimmy Smith, who emulated the Fats Waller sound, which was a rattling of the piano, where they would play and they would, rattle the notes, And I said, why can't guitar players do that? It was so fascinating to listen to them play them. So for many years, to be precise, 7 years, I fiddled with it and I wrestled with it until I came up with the idea to rattle the notes by using 3 fingers. And the sound that they got, it sounded more like this. I said, oh, I gotta learn that. I have to learn how to make the guitar do that. And so I started playing. And I started doing that in many of my recordings, and lo and behold, people started to comment on it in articles, and I realized I had stumbled upon something that was quite interesting. Of course, the most I use it today is because of today's contemporary music not being rooted in the swing, the music that first fascinated me in the jazz world. Today they use what we call a 2/4 rhythm or a backbeat concept. And so I don't rattle the notes with my fingers. I do it with the pick. Well, we're here in my home. I'm back, and we'd like to welcome you. We're going through a lot of different things today. I'd like you to know that this is the place where I kind of do my creativity. At least for the last 18 years I've been here. In the middle of New Jersey, we have a couple of acres of trees and streams and rocks. And like the rocks that are behind me, they were taken out of the ground and put into the architect of the great Frank Lloyd Wright, who was one of the co-architects of this particular dwelling. It's a fitting place because when I'm here, it's very quiet at night. There's no noises, just me, and the guitar beats me up all through the night. But ultimately, every now and then, I come up with something that's very decent and listenable. One song that comes to mind is a song on Broadway. A lot of people have learned to like that song from a different point of view. Of course, mine is a little different than the original version, which was done by the Drifters way back in the either late 50s or early 60s, I believe. And I've always loved this song, so when my producer said, George, how would you like to record on Broadway? What do you think about that idea? I said, absolutely not. He said, why not? I said, well, the song is a classic. It's so wonderful. I don't want to destroy it. And he said, George, people will love you doing that song. I said, well, if I can think of something different, I will. And as I contemplated doing the song in the next couple of days, which we recorded it live, you know, at a club in Los Angeles, I thought about something that I had discussed with Quincy Jones a couple of weeks earlier. And he said something just off the cuff. He said, you know, George, today's music is two-bar phrases, is built off of two-bar phrases. I didn't understand what that meant until I started thinking about different songs. In the old days, if they had a particular phrase, well, as you notice, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, it's all done in 1 4-bar or 1 bar in 4 beats, and then it repeats again. 2 bars, 3 bars, same phrase, each bar. But now, and so it was on Broadway. 2, 2, 3, 4, 3. I hadn't changed it yet. It's on nights so bright on Broadway, the old version, right? But that's only a 1-bar phrase. But when I change, first bar is this, the second bar is, that's a 2-bar phrase. First bar, second bar is, then you repeat. What that does, and what I realize, is that it breaks down the monotony. Half is boring. And so I said, oh, now I'm getting the message. All right, I got the idea. And it was so hard to teach that to my band because they knew the original version, which they loved as much as I did. And so as reluctant as they were, they played the devil out of that song once they got the concept, and they really learned to float within that concept. Because, you know, when you have something as strong as this as a bass line, I mean, that's hard to get away from that. The drummer wants to play it, and the guitar player wants to play it, and so forth and so on. But to float in with that. I mean, there's so many things you can do in that. Now, that's not the way we recorded it, but I just wanted to use that as an idea of the things that you can accomplish with that. Well, we recorded it, and that 2-bar phrase, we started actually a whole step down. And then after that segment, we went up a half step, you know, until we finally ended up in the key of B flat, which was the ultimate key toward the end that had all the energy, and I did my improvisations off of that, you know. And I thought B flat as opposed to B flat, A flat, which you would be compelled to do because that's where the chords are moving. But you don't have to do that. This